Applying and interviewing. Virtual residency program interviews. Presented by the coordinators of the University of Cincinnati, the University of Louisville, and the University of Kentucky. I think it's safe to say that the pandemic has had a lasting change on the way that programs and applicants are approaching residency program interviews. It seems that the traditional method of in-person interviews has gone to the wayside, and a virtual platform has moved in as the main method of interviewing again this year. While we cannot replicate an in-person experience digitally, you should still gain the same knowledge about the programs through virtual interviews as you would an in-person interview. The ARIS timeline has changed again this year, but all other factors of the application process remain the same. It's important to remember that residency programs may begin reviewing applications on September 29th. Applications submitted on or before September 29th will display an application date of September 29th. Any applications submitted after that date will be stamped in real time. After a year of virtual interviews, a few lessons learned, and a lot of research, we've compiled a list of 10 interview and application tips from a coordinator's perspective. Our first tip would be to test your technology. Make sure that your computer is working and has an updated version of the meeting application or software that the program is using for their recruitment. You should also ensure that your internet connection is secure and reliable. Another tip is to be prepared with phone numbers of coordinators so you can quickly transition to a phone call in the event that your computer or internet link fails. You should also confirm that there is no echo or feedback from other microphones that may be plugged into your device that you are using. When interviewing, speak slowly and enunciate clearly, as the internet connection and microphone issues can degrade the sound quality. Our second tip would be to arrange your space. Be sure to organize the room that you're interviewing in so that your camera does not show anything you do not want the interviewers to see. Be sure to turn off your camera in between interviews and during breaks so as not to highlight an empty chair. Pay attention to your lighting and test different camera angles to ensure your face is not in a shadow. Most importantly, ensure a quiet location. We recommend posting a Do Not Disturb sign outside of the door at the location that you are interviewing. You should ask your institution if there are designated spaces with good lighting, Wi-Fi, and soundproofing. Tip number 3 is to limit your distractions. Be sure to mute your phone and computer alerts and avoid multitasking during the interview. Try to block your schedule for at least 30 minutes before and 30 minutes after your interview in order to be on time and stay present for the entire interview. If you have a series of interviews with different programs, consider taking the entire day off to minimize distractions. It's important to keep in mind that personal mannerisms such as scratching your head or face and adjusting your hair can become more noticeable when you're being viewed on camera. Even these small, simple movements can become distracting to interviewers. Be sure that you're maximizing your eye contact by looking directly into the camera rather than at the computer screen. Some devices will allow you to move from one screen to the other, and be sure that you're viewing the interviewer on the screen in which your camera is located. During one-on-one interviews, there is no need to mute yourself. Doing so can cause awkward pauses in the conversation. When doing a group interview, please mute and unmute yourself to avoid background noise when other people are talking. Tip number 4, prepare for each interview. Be sure to review the program's websites before your interview. Programs will often have commonly asked questions listed on their websites, which will save you time from having to reach out to each individual program. Be sure to ask several questions that are specific to each program. We strongly recommend doing practice interviews in low-stakes settings such as with a friend, with a mentor, or a faculty member that you trust to give you honest feedback. If you are unfamiliar with the area or institution, be sure to contact past or current residents to gather various perspectives on that program, institution, and city. We also recommend that you have your application materials on hand in case your interviewer asks you to share them on screen. Tip number 5, act professionally. This should go without saying, but please be on time for your interview. Be sure to check prior to the interview which time zone the program that you are interviewing with is in. Dress professionally for the interview and do not eat, drink, chew gum, or walk around during the interview. Basically, do the same thing that you would be doing if this were an in-person interview. If you're participating in a group interview, please be mindful of time sharing with others. Convey your responses completely and concisely. Tip number 6, build rapport. Be sure to say a proper and friendly hello to your interviewer. It's appropriate to smile and use a moderate number of hand gestures. Be sure to demonstrate interest in your interviewers, and if you're familiar with their work, consider asking them questions about that work. Remember, not only are the programs interviewing you, but you are also interviewing the programs, and it's important for you to be interested in the work that is being done at each program. Tip number 7, be sure to follow up. Send a thank you card or a thank you email to each interviewer. If you offer to send additional information or materials to an interviewer, please do so as soon as the interview is over. As the program coordinator, we get asked a lot if our interviewers prefer thank you cards in the mail or if a thank you email is sufficient. The answer is, it depends. It really depends on the interviewer's personality, and you should do what you feel is best after the interview. Tip number 8, cancellation courtesy. Please give programs advance notice if you intend to cancel your interview. Tips number 9 and 10 are application tips. So tip number 9, letters of recommendation. Please inform your letter writers which specialty application you are using their letter for. If you are applying to a diagnostic radiology residency program, for instance, you wouldn't want a letter for orthopedic surgery in your application for diagnostic radiology residency. If this is not your first year of residency interviews, please retain fresh letters of recommendation that are specialty specific. Tip number 10, writing your personal statement. The personal statement is your chance to highlight your personal strengths and characteristics. It's your opportunity to give the program some idea of who you are, your background, your goals, qualities that make you stand out prior to offering interviews. Your personal statement should include an introduction to who you are and what specialty you are applying to. It should describe what drew you to radiology, if there was a particular event that led your interest, and if so, describe it. It should also include your clinical activities, your research, or personal experiences that solidified your interest in radiology. Use these to highlight your strengths. Be sure to tell us your personal characteristics that make you well suited for radiology and what you will bring to the program. Let us know what you are looking for in a program, both clinically and academically, and let us know your future plans within the specialty you're applying to. Be sure to limit your personal statement to 1 page. Make sure you're using spell check and grammar check before you submit. Don't begin every sentence with I and avoid cliches. You also don't want to rehash your CV. Once you have a draft of your personal statement that you are happy with, be sure to ask your academic advisor, a radiology faculty member, your student affairs, career development office, or a close friend to read your personal statement and give you honest feedback. One last thing we want to talk about are virtual interview mechanisms that you may encounter and that you should definitely familiarize yourself with. We recommend that you review Zoom, Microsoft Teams, BlueJeans, and Thalamus prior to the interview season. All 4 of these programs have how-to and informational videos that you can find online. It's also worth mentioning that invitations to interview may not come through any of those platforms. Common ways to receive invitations are through ARIS directly, via interview broker, and sometimes even through a simple email from the program. Be sure to review and maintain your email, including your junk box, in order to avoid missing an invitation to interview. If you're looking for additional resources, I recommend checking out the AAMC website, specifically the Preparation Guide for Applicants and the Prep for Success in Your Virtual Interview, which is a pre-recorded webinar. You should also check out the UT Southwestern Medical School Virtual Residency Interview Checklist, which is where many of these interview tips came from. Coordinators from the University of Louisville, the University of Cincinnati, and the University of Kentucky are available to answer any questions that you may have.